Well, it's that time of year where I want to go over all of my assets, liabilities, which means the amount of net worth that I actually have in my life. It's not really something that I care about that much or track that often anymore, but today I'm going to go over all of my assets, liabilities, and ultimately how much net worth that I actually have. What's up? My name's Avery and I've been on my wealth building journey since at least 2018 when I graduated college and bought my first rental property in 2019, and ever since I've been trying to build more and more wealth so I can live my ultimate dream of being a stay-at-home dad while my family doesn't have to worry about finances. And on top of being a real estate investor, I am also a realtor in the Raleigh, Durham area of North Carolina. So if you have interest in buying or selling a home in this area, or really anywhere, I can connect you with myself to help you do that, or connect you with one of the many agents that I know around the US. First off, very simply, what is your net worth? So it's just going to be your total assets minus your total liabilities. And it really is just that simple. So anything that is positive that you could exchange for value, aka money, minus anything that you owe someone for potentially owning those things or not owning those things, that will then lead to your ultimate net worth number. Common things that are seen as liabilities would be credit card debt, if you have any mortgages, car loans, student debt, all of that good stuff. Other common things that are seen as assets would be cash, real estate, any sort of stocks, 401k, a health savings account plan, and many other things that you could exchange in value of money. Other things that potentially could be seen as assets could be really anything that you own, if you want to take it as granular as appliances, TV, your car that you could potentially sell, but most likely you still need some way to get around, or some of the clothes you have that you can sell. So I usually don't really include anything like that when I'm thinking about my ultimate net worth. And today I'm going to go over the most liquid to the least liquid type of assets and talk about how much money I have in those, and then the liabilities to get to that final number. And in order to do that, I will be referencing my computer right here, which has all of that stuff written down. And this actually isn't something that I've looked at in a while because, again, it doesn't really matter having paper assets, and things that are going to make you wealthy if you actually sell them are pretty cool to have, and in general to know that you can do that if you need to. But it's not really the same as having that monthly cash flow that comes in that is actually what you're spending money on and how you can survive, eat, and do fun things with your life. So first off, the most liquid asset that I have would be cash, and I have many different bank accounts and hold money in various different places. So I have my personal bank account, and I usually hold anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 in there. Right now I have about $10,000 in there because I am planning to pay some money in taxes that I had to pay. Plus right now I'm also spending some money on tiny home stuff as well as the ADU that I have being built. So I have a few different projects going on, so I just need a little bit of cash liquid and available so I can make those payments. Next would be all of my rental property cash accounts. So I have a good amount for that because I have an account for every single rental property that I have. Not necessarily every single unit, but like to keep things separated. And then I also have an account that's associated with the partnership group that I own 2 properties with. So that's completely separate as well, and actually not something I'm going to be talking about here in my personal net worth. So I have a $40,000 reserve account that actually is somewhere around $41,000 or $42,000 that I keep in a high yield savings account. And that is a Capital One account. So that earns a decent bit of interest every single month. Outside of that, each of those properties have about $2,000. So we'll call it having about $44,000, $45,000 with those accounts associated with those properties. And then I also have an Airbnb that I own on my own, not with partners, not that I manage, but one myself. I have $15,000 in reserves in that one, and in the operating account I have $3,500. So that's another $18,500 there. And then I also have my personal high yield savings account. This year I do have a good amount of expenses planned because I, again, am building a tiny home and spending a lot of money on that. I also am building an ADU. I do have a home equity line of credit, but I think I might just use a lot more cash for that one so that I don't have to pay any sort of interest or debt on the property. Still back and forth on that because the cash on cash return is very similar depending on which one I put in, but then I'd have to pay off the HELOC. Not that that really matters. So anyway, in my high yield savings account, which I use a Marcus Goldman Sachs account for my personal account, and if you're interested in signing up on that one, I get a couple of referrals and you can get some increased yield if you sign up through my link. I'll put that in the description below, but I have about $325,000 there. Now that sounds like a shocking amount of money, and it really is, but the reason I'm keeping it fairly liquid is because I'm planning on doing these projects, and I also am paying for a wedding. I still have about $25,000 more of expenses for that specific wedding. So it's a lot of money. I kind of need it in order to spend it, so I'm not putting in any sort of investments right now so I can keep some money saved up. Plus, I recently retired and quit my job, and now I'm a full-time realtor, so I wanted some extra money saved up in order to live my life in case I'm not making any money. Although I've made $70,000 so far this year as a real estate agent, so that's going pretty well, and I'm not too upset about that, and I think will continue to grow. So I'm feeling okay there, but that's how much money I have saved up in a reserve, emergency savings, high yield savings account. Next would be any sort of stocks or investments that I have, because those are fairly easy to sell, cash out, and turn them into the most liquid thing would be cash. So I have a personal brokerage that has about $22,000 in there, and mainly that comprised of VTI and VYM that I've purchased, and that is just a standard brokerage, normal taxable brokerage that I keep with Vanguard. And then I also have an IRA in there. So that IRA has about $12,500 in that account. And as I mentioned, I recently left my job, so I had a 401k at that job, and it had $71,000 in there, and that was split up between a Roth 401k and a traditional 401k. So I've just converted both of those to a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. So I have still that $71,000 that are now in a Roth and traditional IRA. So across all of those investments accounts, it's around $105,000. Again, this is all money that I don't plan on touching, really just gonna leave it there for the long haul, see how it grows until I'm older. And I don't really wanna access it or use it unless I have to. Outside of any of those investments, I also have a health savings account, because when I was employed, I had a high deductible health plan, which you can pair with a health savings account, meaning you can take pre-tax dollars, put it in there, actually invest it, and that pre-tax dollars can be earned and make money without being taxed, as long as when you take it out, it's for qualified health events. So I just keep that in there, let it grow a little bit, and then sometimes I will utilize it to actually spend on if you're going to the dentist, doctor, if you have any co-pays, stuff like that. But right now that has about $13,500 in it, and another thing that I don't really plan on touching and just letting it ride. So if you add up the fairly decently liquid net worth that I have, that's about $520,000. Again, I don't really view this as money that I have for my day-to-day life. This is just stuff that I have that I could utilize for more investments that will create more financial freedom for me, that will allow me to achieve my dream of being a stay-at-home dad where no one is worried about money and we just have a good, cool life and I can hang out with my family and do fun things. Next would be all of my real estate, and that would comprise a majority of my net worth here. So if you added all of those numbers up, it was a little bit over $500,000. And then my real estate makes up a decent chunk more than that in my total net worth. So I own 9 units or properties of real estate myself, and then I own 5 units with partners. So I'll delineate that a little bit because I have a smaller equity share with those partners than I do with the properties that I own outright. So the first ever property that I bought was a duplex in 2019. That property today is worth roughly $870,000, and I owe $466,000 left on that property. And again, all of these numbers are rough estimates. If I actually went and sold that property, I would have to pay some type of realtor fees. At least I could get a referral if I referred myself to the agent that I used out there. There'd be other title and attorney fees and potentially some taxes unless I'm doing a 1031 exchange. So it really is just paper money on paper. If I tried to liquidate that property, instead of the $400,000 that I have in equity, if I just sold it, paid all of the capital gains tax and whatnot, I'd probably end up with closer to $300,000. So it can go down quite a bit depending on all the things that you have to pay for, plus depreciation, recapture. There's a good amount of stuff. So that is to say, if you sell a rental property, try to do a 1031 exchange or don't sell it at all. Next would be the triplex that I purchased a year later that is also in the Boston area. That is going to be worth somewhere between $930,000 and $950,000. So let's just call it $940,000. And right now I have about $610,000 left on the loan for that one. So as you can see there, just with those two properties and how much the market really went up when I bought my property in 2019 and 2020, that already comprises more of my net worth than the amount of liquid cash and stocks that I have. Next would be my primary residence. I bought this property a few years ago, also was able to hit a decent boom and bought in a fantastic neighborhood. Property's worth about $500,000, and I'm about to build an ADU on it, so that will go up in value. Although that cash that I have saved up will go towards that, so it's not like we're gonna offset that, and it has not happened yet. But I owe $300,000 on this property, and a $500,000 positive amount towards my net worth. And one of my favorite properties that I have is my Airbnb, and where I'm adding the tiny home on the land. I would say roughly once that tiny home is complete, it will be worth about $575,000, and I owe $230,000 on that loan. I still have to spend another $20,000 or $25,000 from my high yield savings account to finish the actual tiny home project, but I spent a majority of that money that is no longer in my account in order to actually get that one up and running. So the two properties that I own with my partners, one is a 4-unit that I've had for a while, stabilized that property, have increased the rent a decent amount in the last couple of years and created some more cash flow for myself as well as the partnership group. And then more recently, we purchased a property, renovated it, and then have a tenant actually moving in tomorrow. So that's been a pretty successful renovation project, and both properties are in fantastic locations. So each of those properties has definitely gone up in value. And as far as my equity stake goes in those properties, the 4-unit, I have about a $45,000 equity stake, and the single family home that we purchased, I have about a $43,000 equity stake in that property. And when I talk about the equity stake in those properties, that would be the entirety of the value of the home minus the actual loan that we have on that home, and then also just taking my share of the equity, not the entirety. Outside of that, I do have a car. Like I said, I don't really like adding that to my net worth calculation. The Kelly Blue Book value is probably about $13,000. I just have a 2016 Mazda CX-5. So not a crazy good car, but also very dependable, allows me to get to showings and do the things that I want to do, have clothes and other random stuff and tools and whatnot that I could sell. And I really have absolutely no debt whatsoever other than the mortgages. I don't have any student loans. I also don't have any credit card debt that I carry. So right now that would be the totality of my whole net worth, which if you added up all of the numbers is pretty close to $1.9 million. Now that sounds absolutely crazy for me to think about because it doesn't really feel like I have that much net worth. Again, if I liquidated everything, it would get a decent bit lower just with fees, taxes, all of that good stuff. And I almost felt a little bit weird about making this video because of the sheer number, but I do have friends who have a much higher net worth than me. So it really is just numbers on paper, more just about how you can get there and how it's actually very achievable for anybody who's out there watching, because I just did very simple stuff while continuing to work a job and just put in some good work and just made it happen by continuously doing things, putting in a few extra hours, working on weekends and all of that good stuff. And probably the biggest thing and the catalyst that has helped me push a lot of things forward is obviously every single year, quarter, whatever it is, I try to create more and more income in my life. So I get a new rental property, I would buy more investments, I would try to increase the income in my job, become a real estate agent, was making money on the side there, and now doing it full time with unlimited earning potential, really, with just the amount of effort that I'm putting in rather than having a W-2 salary. So every one of those things made it easier to save so I can invest more. And while I was doing all of that and earning more income, I continuously just lived the way that I was already living. So it doesn't really take a lot to make me happy or live the life that I want to. I don't eat out a crazy amount. I will do it once in a while, definitely more than I did back in 2019, but I really like eating my own food, doing some travel, which doesn't have to be crazy expensive, especially if you can get some cool credit card points and sign up bonuses, then you can save a lot of money on flights and hotels. Doing a Europe trip fairly soon and basically got all the hotels and flights just with points, so that's really awesome. So those kind of things can definitely make it a lot easier too, but really the moral of the story here is try to continue increasing that income while just keeping your expenses the same and not living a crazy lavish life, trying to keep up with other people, buying irrelevant, dumb assets like stupid cars that don't do anything for you or too big of houses, and just live a good, modest lifestyle and focus on having good relationships with people rather than just throwing all of your money away. So I hope you all liked that video, and if you did, please scroll down, make that thumbs up button blue. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to learn more about real estate investing, the real estate agent business, or if you just want to listen to me talk more, definitely hit that subscribe button because I'd really appreciate it, and I make weekly content to hopefully help you all out there achieve that financial freedom that you're looking for. So thanks again for watching, and more wealth is coming your way.